Kelly Vaughn, and this is Inside Indy. And we're going to address a very serious and important topic, not often talked about. In fact, you don't hear a lot about suicide in the news, and there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview. But I want to introduce to you two very special guests in the studio with me. Skip Ockomon, you are board member of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
That's correct.
You're also an Anderson firefighter.
Yes, ma'am.
29 years.
That's right.
Wow. And you're also part of the peer support firefighters, CISM trained.
Yes, CISM trained.
Okay, CISM trained, all right. And then we have Hayden McGonigal.
McGonigal.
Huh?
McGonigal.
McGonigal, okay. I changed his name. Okay. On the show. I'm thinking of the actor, but volunteer, and you are responsible for helping to spread the word about suicide prevention and also the big walk that happens in Anderson and Indianapolis, right? Welcome to the show. Welcome to Inside Indy. All right. Skip, 29 years as a firefighter. Tell us what that journey has been like for you.
Well, you know, every kid wants to be a firefighter or a police officer. Usually I have my brothers, uncles, cousins were firefighters, and then a couple of brothers police officers. So I was deciding which one I wanted to do, and it seemed like I gravitated to being a firefighter. You know, I went through training, got on the school, and I had this vision. I was going to be this hero. I was going to go save the day. And then I said earlier, I got a reality check. I was on the ambulance the first 2 weeks. I saw stabbing, shootings, little babies dying, and I didn't know how to handle it. You know, and that's pretty much the whole career. You know, they don't train you to see that stuff. You can see it in the books or on TV, but when it's in your face and you're doing CPR on a little baby or an individual, it's kind of tough to handle.
So when you're training to be a firefighter, though, they don't teach you about that, or you're just saying you don't see it?
Years ago, it was like that, just suck it up. You know, you go through the training and they don't really tell you about those things. You go how to do the CPR, the first aid, but as far as the feelings after all that, there was no training or nothing for that at that time.
Do they have that now today,
Yes.
or has the training advanced?
Yes, yes they do.
Wow.
Today they do.
Wow. So what was your first run? Do you remember?
One of my first runs was a gentleman got in a car wreck. He had a heart attack, and we had to pull him out, and I was doing CPR on him. And I remember, I don't want to get too graphic, but I remember his cartilage was, when I CPR, was cracking a little bit, and I remember that. And then we took him to the hospital, and I'll never forget that. You know, one thing, I handled the stress. You know, I didn't know how to talk to somebody. I thought if I talked to somebody, that was a sign of weakness. Nobody taught me that. That's just what I thought. But I'd leave work at 7 o'clock in the morning. The liquor stores would open at 9. I'd go buy a bottle of whiskey. I'd drink until I'd pass out. I'd get back up, drink again, then go back to work. And I did that for years. That's how I handled the stress from alcohol and drugs. Didn't want to tell anybody. I'd stay in my one-room apartment, and they called me a cutter. I'd cut myself, burn myself with cigarettes, simply because I didn't know how to handle that pain of seeing little children burn or anything. I didn't know how to handle the pain. Right. So I'd go do that, and finally I didn't think, I kind of denounced God. I said, there cannot be no God with this happening. That's what back then, so I tried to be an atheist. Well, I couldn't drink enough with being an atheist. God was knocking at the door. And years went by. I hit treatment centers, been in treatment centers several times. I had a heart attack when I was 33 years old.
Are you kidding? Wow.
And then finally when I was 33, I took my last drink, and that was 18 years ago. And I turned to my wife and I said, I can't do it no more. And she took me to the hospital, had some other friends that could relate and help me out of that darkness, met me there, and that's when life started changing. That's when I started sharing my feelings and my emotions to people and quit trying to be that tough guy, because it was killing me. And I didn't, not only physically it was killing me, because the doctor said if I drink one more time I was going to die. And, and that kind of, shook me up a little bit when he told me that. So I went to my last treatment center. I went to a halfway house. You know, I still have my job, and I told the friends, I still got my job, I still got my wife. They said, but Skip, are you staying sober? And I said, no, I'm not. So I went to the halfway house. And even though I was sober and I still didn't want to be on this earth. I still was searching. I didn't know there was anything there. They were telling me to pray, but I was praying to nothing because I didn't believe. And then finally, slowly, after years went by, a friend of mine, that was my neighbor for years, he was paralyzed from the neck down. He ended up went to college, and he retired from the FBI. He was the strongest man that I know in my life. I walked over to his house one day, and I hadn't had a drink in 5 years. And we started talking. And then that day, I accepted Christ in my life.
Wow.
And I said, and after that day, things really changed. I started getting involved in our community. I started getting out of self. I didn't want to die so much anymore. And I just wanted to help people. And then I knew how to handle the situations on the fire department by sharing my emotions. I see a counselor. I continue to do that today. And just a friend, like me and you sitting here, this is somebody I can talk to.
Okay.
I got involved in the fire rescue house that we have for fire victims. We started that, and then it slowly tipped over to the peer support group for firefighters, because I had two of my friends years ago, Pete and Gary, died by suicide. And I remember I tried to help them. I didn't see it coming. And I've been through the darkness where they've been through, but it was a shock to all of us when they died. And I remember Pete, I talked to Pete, I said, Pete, don't do what Gary did. And 2 months later, Pete killed himself. And I couldn't help him. So when it drifted to the peer support, getting trained in that was my big factor, not only in my journey, but with Pete and Gary's, us losing them, it kind of motivated all of us to make changes in not only our department, but in our own lives. We need to help our fellow brothers and sisters.
Wow. You talked earlier about you didn't talk in the beginning.
No.
So when you said that you didn't talk to other people, is that what you mean in terms of expressing what you were feeling?
That's
where you were
correct.
raised, you're saying?
Well, my mom and dad were loving people, but we didn't talk a lot about our emotions.
Yeah.
They loved me and stuff, I knew that. But even on the fire department, people would try to help me, but I wouldn't talk. I'd shut down because it felt uncomfortable sharing that I couldn't handle it. I was scared. And to cover that fear and the uncomfortable was drinking and drugs.
Okay.
And then that slipped into where I was suicidal. I was planning when I wrote my letter, I went to the city, I maxed out my insurance, and I was going to die in a fire.
Oh my
That was the insane way of me thinking I could take care of my family, because if I died in this fire, the federal government would pay my family double.
Wow.
So that's, thank God that didn't work out. And thank God I got a God in my life today.
Now, wow. So you talked about Pete and Gary.
Yeah.
So is what you go through, is that common and pretty much throughout the department, and we have better ways of dealing with it? What's going on there? Because I'm just feeling this concern and compassion for the firefighters, just for all of them, because I would think you all kind of see the same things over and over and over again.
Yeah, the divorce rate for firefighters is way up there. I think what Marion Teixeira with the Anderson Center, that's a treatment facility that's helping us with our peer support and does free counseling for us, said every fire station in the United States is affected by divorce. Every one. Alcoholism drug rate is way up there, and the suicide rate is climbing. So what we have to do is put the brakes and start the peer support for firefighters. And we go through CISM training, crisis intervention team that we got there, that we cooperate with other fire departments, the DNR in our county, other fire departments. We come in together, and they call us out if there's an incident, and we go talk it out with all the firemen and police officers and stuff.
Wow, okay. So perhaps some of the other firefighters have survived. Maybe they talk to someone, because I wouldn't think everybody necessarily is thinking suicide, or is it pretty rampant? I'm just trying to, because you see so much. I mean, that would blow anybody's mind. So
yeah, a lot of stuff they act out, not just alcohol and drugs, divorce, extramarital affairs,
okay.
Just different
It comes
things
out
that
in
they
different
do.
ways
Yeah,
for
different
people.
forms. It don't have to go straight to their suicide. They could
Right.
just be thinking of suicide or thinking of the pain going away and not have a plan.
Right.
And there's a difference how you get trained and what you look for. That that's what American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, AFSP, trains you what to look for, the signs, the symptoms, and different other things that we can look for, and ask that awkward question. When you see somebody missing work, they're drinking a little bit more than they usually do, or they're acting out, they're not talking enough, or they're just different. You sit down and you tell them, you notice, hey, I notice you're missing work. You're not doing the same, you're not taking care of yourself. And then you ask that question, are you thinking about suicide? Because it's better to ask the question, that person be uncomfortable, than not asking it like I didn't with Pete or Gary, and they're not here anymore.
Okay. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about Peter and Gary, and you and Hayden, and all of the above when we come back.
Thank you.
And we're back here on Inside Indy, and we're talking about suicide, and particularly among our firefighters and the stress that they go through, and some solutions for some of their challenges. Skip Ockomon is here. He is a firefighter from Anderson, and we were talking about Pete and Gary. Tell us who they were and what led to the two of them both taking their lives.
Well, Gary was a very intelligent person. I mean, he was one that, he was a driver operator, would do anything for you. Just amazing man. One thing, you know, and Gary would, it's amazing, he was a perfectionist too. He didn't, other people could mess up, but he couldn't mess up because he'd take it to be, well, you know, through life, Gary and his wife was going through a divorce. Something happened and it caused going through a divorce, and which we didn't see any signs of anything happening. Well, Gary didn't show up to work one day, and our battalion chief went to his house, and they ended up finding Gary. He had his note wrote out, laid out where everything was, and he was out in the backyard, and he didn't want to make a mess in the house.
Oh, wow.
And he just didn't know how to reach out because he's a perfectionist, and he didn't know how to do that. But he's a very loving man. None of us seen that coming at all.
Wow.
Now, Pete had a problem with alcohol and drug addiction. Me and him were late. We was in the same halfway house together for a while. He was the manager, and he helped get me through what I needed to get through. And then, then Pete went back out drinking, and I tried to help Pete. Took him to treatment centers and different other things. And I remember having a conversation. I said, Pete, don't do what Gary did. Pete was a Christian, believed in Christ, believed in the Bible. He goes, Skip, I'll never do that to my family. Look me right in the eye. And that kind of gave me a peace. Even though he was messing up, that just gave me peace. 2 months later, I'm with his brother, Tim, that's on the fire department, and his other brother, Tracy, comforted them because Pete killed himself. And we kind of seen it. I didn't think it would happen, but it did. And it hit all of us hard.
Oh, I bet.
Even talking, I get choked up. But, you know, one thing I can do about both of those memories, and their families are okay for me talking about it. I talked to Gary's daughter, and she said, go ahead, Skip. When Dad died, he left two families. He left us and the fire department family. And then Pete's brother, Tim, Herb, that's on the fire department, he told me I could do whatever and talk about it and share the picture and stuff. So I'm real sensitive about people's feelings. I watch, make sure I'm, you know, it's what we say about the AFSP, we say, seize the awkward. You got a moment, you got somebody to talk about it. It feels uncomfortable, you probably need to talk about it.
Right.
And they teach you at American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, they got different classes you can go through, safe talk classes, assist classes that you can go through and teach you how to do that. And it's on the website. If you go to afsp.org/Indiana, it'll tell you everything. And every state's like that. If wherever state you're in, if you just go / whatever state you're in, you can get that, find your chapter.
So what would you say to a firefighter or any emergency response personnel, because you think of, just police officers, and I would think they experience some of the same
Absolutely.
issues, or anybody out there, because life in itself, and certainly not as stressful as what you see every day, but anybody who is having trouble coping, what do you say to them?
Talk. Reach out to somebody you trust, or if you don't, and talk. And if that person is talking, they're getting it off their chest and stuff. Everybody's stressors are different. Mine are different than for somebody else's that gets stuck in traffic or whatever. That might just throw them over there. But that's how they take it. That's it's just how we handle it and what we do with it. The biggest thing is just talk to somebody. I don't care. I've been around, I've helped police officers through different things, sheriffs through different things. Firefighters call me on different things for family members. I take them to the professionals. I don't try to fix them. That's not my job. My job is to keep them safe for that moment or for that day and lead them to the people that can help them the most. That's mental health workers and therapists. And we're real short on those. And to bridge the gap to that is the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention that has those text lines, those hotlines you can call until you can see a professional. That's what we're about.
Okay, and we have that information on the screen for everybody to check out. You participate in a couple of walks, Out of the Darkness
That's
walk
correct.
in Anderson and Indianapolis. Let's talk about those.
Well, we found out 3 years ago, we talked about this and doing a walk for the peer support for the firefighters. Well, a young little lady that said, have you ever heard of the Out of Darkness walks? And we're at the Speedway. I said, no. So we contacted Lisa, who was the head of Indiana AFSP, and the Out of Darkness walks is a way, awareness, not just to raise money, but it's awareness for friends and family that's been affected by suicide. We have different booths set up. We do a little program. Our first year we had about 1,000 people there at the Anderson Speedway. Last year, we had about 1,500 people there at Anderson Speedway. And then we had crosses. One thing somebody had an idea to have a cross that represented everybody that died by suicide in Indiana. We had 960 crosses in 2015 is how many people that died in Indiana. We had those lined up all the way around the Speedway. Unfortunately, the number went up. It's 1,034 now, so we have to make more crosses to put around the Speedway. And we're inviting friends and family to bring pictures of their loved ones. And the racetrack closed the track on Saturday. We had it on Sundays. They said, Skip, we want you to give more attendance. We're closing our race on Saturday. We want you to have your walk on a Saturday. Wow. And they let them write in chalk. They let them write their loved ones' names on chalk, and then in a marker on the start-finish line, they write their loved ones there. So when you leave there, there's names all over the place of the loved ones there. But there's something, when you get the numbers, you're there for the same thing. There's power in numbers. When you look at somebody, you don't have to really say nothing. You just look at them. The first year, I walked the opposite way. With everybody else, I high-fived everybody, I hugged people, I prayed with them if they wanted to pray, or I just left them alone. Whatever they needed, that's what we tried to fill. This year, we're doing a little different. At the FDIC conference, that's a firefighters conference, we passed out flyers. All firefighters and policemen come that day in uniform in their turnout gear and walk with the people.
Oh, nice.
And that's what we're going to do this year. Because we were there at the worst time in their life, and we're going to still be there for them through that. One thing we do, I facilitate a support group for suicide prevention every month at the Anderson Center. We're starting a first responders support group with Indianapolis and Anderson. We're going to start that with Brandon, the head of the peer support in Indianapolis. And we're working together. It's not just Anderson. We're figuring out to everybody all over the United States, whatever we can do to help and fill the void.
Okay, so it sounds like it's about remembering those who have passed on, but also prevention.
Absolutely.
And helping those to keep that from happening again. So I think I commend you for your efforts. And again, the dates and times for those, the first walk is when?
The Anderson Walk is September 8th, and it starts at 11 o'clock. We got different booths set up from different organizations who are going to be there. We got Pork Paradise is going to be there. He's a firefighter that has a side business, and he's donating some of the money back to the event.
Okay.
And then also we got some surprises that I can't tell anybody that's going to happen, that you just got to look in there and you'll see what it is.
Okay, and then the one in Indianapolis
Indianapolis is September 15th, a week later. And we're going to do the same thing. The Indianapolis firefighters and Anderson, we're going to walk in our turnout gear together. We're going to join hands and walk with the victims of suicide and just help them out. They got it's amazing. They had about 5,000 people last year, different booths set up. And for a serious thing this is, it was lighthearted. People were lifting up, hugging each other, listening to each other, and it was amazing. And it's hard to put in words. You just need to attend. And you can go to either website, afsp.org/Anderson. That gives you the time, the dates of Anderson Walk, or afsp.org/Indianapolis, and that gives you all the information there to contact people.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Hayden. Hi, Hayden. Now tell us what you do and how you're a part of all of this.
I helped put up the signs.
Okay, and what did the signs usually say?
I know it's about the suicide prevention.
And so why do you do that? Because you're volunteering your time. I mean, you could be playing games and soccer or, video games, but you get out and help. Why do you do it?
Because I'm down here from Tennessee. And I just came to his house.
When we get involved in something in my family, it's a whole family gets together and does stuff. And I think that's what you start with. You start that conversation at an early age, and you talk about it. And then later on in life, you're planting the seed for later on in life if they need those tools.
That's
and
true.
Caden's great. He's the hardest worker, 10-year-old that I've ever seen. He'll do anything. He gets out, puts signs out. He wears wristbands. He even comes on he's very shy, and he comes on a TV show to talk about it.
Right.
That's courageous to me.
Yeah, we commend you
I'm
for your
proud of it.
bravery today. And show us those are some of the wristbands that you,
Put your hand down, just hold it up for a minute.
wow. So so I take it you pass those out, but are those different ones from different times that he's participated, or they say different things?
Yeah, there's different ones for the Out of Darkness Walk, and then he has some other for firefighters that passed away and different other things that's happened. But yeah, those are different colors for different walks. We passed those out at the walk. We passed buttons. We got all kinds of things. We got little puppy scarves we give out. It says "Be the Voice." Just a whole lot of things that we try to give the people, and just to get the word out and the phone numbers and let them know we're here for you at your darkest time.
Okay, and we'll have that information on the screen for folks. We appreciate you both for coming in and enlightening us, and we encourage people to go out and participate in the Out of the Darkness walks in Anderson and Indianapolis. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Skip and
Kelly.
Hayden, for joining us on Inside Indy.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Vaughn. We'll see you next time here on Inside Indy. Bye-bye.